हाय फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम बैक। तो अभी हम देखने वाले हैं विजय माल्या पॉडकास्ट, राइज एंड डाउनफॉल ऑफ किंगफिशर एयरलाइंस लोन्स एंड आरसीबी। ओए होए। अब क्वेश्चन ये है कि क्या विजय माल्या इंडिया आया होगा? कभी नहीं। तो मेरे ख्याल से ये पॉडकास्ट यूके में, मेरे ख्याल से लंदन में है ये, तो शायद यूके में ही पॉडकास्ट हुआ होगा स्पेशली। चलो देखते हैं, वीडियो शुरू करते हैं। वीडियो शुरू करने से पहले अगर आप चैनल पर नए हो और आपने अभी तक सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो जल्दी से पहले सब्सक्राइब के बटन और बेल आइकन को क्लिक कर लो ताकि आपको हमारे सारे न्यू वीडियोस के नोटिफिकेशन मिल जाए जैसे हम अपलोड करें।
अगर आपको वीडियो पसंद आता है प्लीज लाइक एंड शेयर। चलिए शुरू करते हैं।
is out of the country. Liquor Baron Vijay Mallya, who finds himself in a raging 9,000 crore loan default scam. Welcome on Figuring Out, sir. Why are you doing this after 9 years?
In India, public opinion is very quickly formed and influenced by the media. जो पैसा लूट के भाग गया, क्या पैसा, क्या लूट?
Hi, I'm Vijay Mallya.
So it's not just huge, it is women.
Nothing else comes close. Kingfisher is a class apart.
Vijay Mallya case.
You were the biggest airline in the country.
Welcome aboard Kingfisher Airlines.
India's biggest airline.
Going to be there amongst the best airlines in the world.
What went wrong?
So I went to Shri Pranab Mukherjee, then Finance Minister of India. I have to downsize this airline. I was told not to downsize Kingfisher at that time. You continue, banks will support you. That is how it all started.
Kingfisher Airlines has been forced to suspend all of its flights. Kingfisher Airlines has been struggling.
At the time when you asked loan, the company was not doing that great.
Please never forget, I gave my personal guarantee. So all this narrative of chor kabhi apna personal guarantee deta hai kya?
People give you this kind of loan against collateral. They took shares of Kingfisher Airlines at the double price. There's again a statement that your international employees were getting paid. Indian employees were not.
The company in India had no money. With UB's money of 260 crores with the bank under the control of the government of Karnataka. Court said no.
Multiple international courts, Switzerland authorities, one of the courts from UK, they have also found you guilty for misrepresentation of funds. Do you ever feel sorry that you couldn't do anything?
I apologize publicly to everyone for this failure of Kingfisher Airlines.
Here's what pissed people off. That in your private life you were enjoying. You had a grand birthday party, your 60th birthday party. Do you think you shouldn't have done that party?
Why?
Somebody mentioned that you took out 35 million euros and invested in buying properties in France.
Rubbish.
What happened between 2012 and 2015?
I made 4 settlement offers to the banks, which they refused to accept.
2015, CBI started investigating you. They found you ciphering the money. 3rd March 2016, case needs to be heard or needs to be represented in front of Supreme Court. 2nd March, you left it. On 15th April, your suspension came for your passport. And 24th April was the revocation. Why didn't you reply?
I'd like to show you something. Here is
What is the biggest challenge of doing business in India?
government. It's in the Indian DNA.
But how did you manage that before? Would there ever be exchange under the table as well?
I'm not going to confirm or deny that because I leave it to your imagination.
How do you make money now? Do you feel restricted now? What's your biggest fear now? And are you prepared for the worst? Have you ever imagined yourself actually going to jail? Would you be willing to return to country if you're assured fair trial?
If I am assured, absolutely, I will think about it seriously. But
This episode is not about glorifying a fugitive, nor it is about justifying any wrongs. It's about asking the hard questions to the man at the center of one of the India's most controversial financial stories. After 9 years of complete media silence, Vijay Mallya chose our podcast Figuring Out to speak publicly for the first time. I didn't do this podcast to celebrate him. I did it because I was curious. I read his tweets, I heard the headlines, but I'd never heard the full side of the story. Because the tweets that he makes are different than what the headlines talk about him. There's a mismatch. As a podcaster, my job is to ask every uncomfortable question And I did. Vijay Mallya claims he never committed fraud. He says he wanted to pay back the loans, that his properties were seized and sold, and that he's being framed. He also says he's ready to face the consequences, whatever they may be, if he's given the fair chance of trial. I've tried to cover his childhood, business building, the man behind the image, the rise, the fall, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the life before and the life now. I'm not here to decide who's right or wrong. I trust the Indian judicial system to do that. This conversation is for those who want to listen, think, and question. It's not about taking sides. It's about understanding all sides. Watch this episode with utmost sincerity and let me know in the comments, what do you think? Welcome on Figuring Out, sir. Thank you for doing this. And my objective of this whole podcast is going to be that I want to know your side of story. There are so many things that we have heard. There are so many things which are probably right or wrong. I don't know what's going on. And I think apart from me, there are millions of Indians who want to know the same thing. You're highly talked about. I also feel that there are so many things which people have just heard and started building their own narrative about you. So I wanted to, out of inquisitiveness, curiosity, and B, out of a responsibility, I wanted to take this forward. So thank you so much for doing this and thank you for giving us an opportunity. And the best thing which I really liked about this is when you came here and you said, I'm ready to answer everything which you want to talk about. I don't think many people give that opportunity. So thank you for doing this. But the first question is, why are you doing this after 9 years? There are thousands of people who must have reached out to you over the years. Why all of a sudden the need after 9 years that, okay, I'll say yes. And yes to us, why?
Very good question. Nice place to start. For the last 9 years, I have been the subject of a vicious, relentless trial by media in India, who, as you have rightly pointed out, have created so many narratives, negative narratives about me, that I have become a lightning rod of public anger, being abused, called names. And that was very unfortunate, both professionally and personally. So rather than try and take on this huge Indian media machine, I just prefer to keep quiet. Now, times have changed. And I can't help but recalling that when President Trump was inaugurated, in the first press briefing by the White House press secretary, she said that a few seats were now going to be reserved for the very first time for people who represented new media or social media. I didn't even know that a podcast existed, let alone understanding what a podcast really meant, until you told me and explained it to me in a manner that I got quite excited about, because here is my opportunity to not only answer your questions, but to say things that I truly feel would never, ever have been truthfully reported by the legacy media, particularly in India. That's why I'm here.
Why do you think nobody cared about hearing you then?
In India, it's strange, but public opinion is very quickly formed and influenced by the media. More importantly, by sensationalism.
Yes.
I still remember the anchor of one media channel in 2016 shouting and screaming on the television, saying, Vijay Mallya, I want to see you in jail clothes. I want to see you eat jail food, with an image of me in jail attire. What for? I always wondered what for. Subsequently, chor, paisa loot ke bhag gaya. Kya paisa? Kya loot? Nobody bothered to step back and think. But it was very easy to fling false accusations day after day and get away with it. One of the reasons I agreed to sit with you today is also because it is only very recently that finally the government of India, Ministry of Finance, has published a report, their annual report, in which they have acknowledged 14,100 crores recovered from me. Of course, this was following the finance minister's statement in Parliament. And the legacy media can't argue with that anymore. They can't put any spin on it anymore. The Debt Recovery Tribunal gave a judgment debt of 4,999 crores borrowed by Kingfisher Airlines, not by Vijay Mallya. Borrowed by Kingfisher Airlines, of which Vijay Mallya was one of the guarantors. So what was the DRT judgment debt? 4,999 crores plus 1,203 crores unapplied interest. Okay, which means notional interest that the banks had not even booked. Forget that. The total of the unapplied interest and the principal was 6,203 crores. Okay? And I was a guarantor. The government has recovered 14,100 crores from me. Right? Now, if I had done chori, if I had duped the banks, where does this all add up? Till very recently, there was absolutely no official figure of recovery. Right? So everybody, the legacy media in particular, wrote whatever they wanted. Right? And I was in no position to contradict. Today, after the government of India has acknowledged the recovery of 14,100 crores, I think it's my turn to ask them what they have to say about it.
Because you say that a lot of things about you are false narrative. Let's go down to from your childhood. We speak from the beginning and you tell me everything that people have been said, people think it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll try to present the facts and the narratives which I have heard and which I have gathered through my research.
All right.
And if you're okay with counter somewhere, I'll counter you as well.
No, please feel free to counter me.
Perfect.
If there's something that you feel is debatable or you want to make a counterpoint, I'm ready for it.
Perfect. Because I feel that's my little responsibility out there to hear the right side and the wrong side both and let then people think about it and let them make the right call.
That's fair.
Perfect. So before even I ask you about childhood, do you regret anything?
I regret one thing, which is that after all my hard work, all the value that I created in so many multiple ways, that effectively the government of India and of course the media made me a zero from a hero. And that's a fact of life that I have had to stomach and live with. Now, whether that was justified or not is something that I'm sure will be encompassed in your own questions.
Zero from a hero. Let's talk about building of a hero first. And we'll come down to zero again. So before the billionaire Vijay Mallya, before the controversy, before all of this flamboyance and scandals and things that people talk about, who was Vijay Mallya as a child? Where were you born? What did you do? How was your childhood? Tell me about it.
Born in Calcutta, moved to our hometown Bangalore, went back to Calcutta, did my schooling there, did my college education there in Calcutta. And my upbringing under my father was a very normal, I would say strict upbringing.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me an incident, strict childhood.
Two things. When I was still in school, class 9 at La Martiniere in Calcutta, my marks were not very good in class. I was a mid-ranker, only because I took a lot of interest in sport and extracurricular activities. I didn't concentrate fully on studies and my mark sheets. And he told me, and I think most people know it, he was exceptionally intelligent, was a product of the Doon School, I think topped his class. So he expected me to also top my class. Nevertheless, he said something to me which I think I remember till today. Two things made a profound impact. One, if you're not good enough, you are not going to step into my shoes. And the second thing he said, do you realize that while I say step into my shoes, there may not be any shoes at all, because the government and its then socialist policies may have taken everything away from us, and the only thing I can leave to you is your education. So take it seriously. I think I repaid some amount of faith because for my last 3 years in school, 9, 10, 11, I think I came within the top 3 in class, and he was quite happy about that.
So weren't you a little spoiled as child?
Spoiled? Oh my God, I was anything but spoiled.
Really?
Yeah.
You had all the fancy toys, you had all the things that you used
Absolutely
to...
no fancy toys at all. That's completely false narrative. After I passed out of school, and when I went to St. Xavier's College to study BCom, my father was very clear. You go to college at 6 o'clock in the morning, and when you finish at 10:30, you go and work a full day at the office as a management trainee. I was put on a stipend of 400 rupees a month, and that 400 rupees never increased right the way my time through college. So that's all I got, 400 rupees a month, and was working, in those days, Phipson and Company Limited, Old Courthouse Street in Calcutta, every day after college.
Aren't there stories that you used to go to college in a very fancy car and you removed the silencer just to show the noise of your car, the loudness of your car, and you were always a show off, weren't you?
I was no show off at all, and the fancy car that I have was a second-hand Standard Herald.
So where are these stories coming from?
I don't know. It's people's narratives, people's perceptions. That's why it's important to correct those perceptions. You know, talking about noise, even a fatfatia in Delhi makes a hell of a lot of noise. You don't have to drive a fancy car to make a noise down the street.
So you are telling me that all these stories of you having fancy toys, remote control cars, and then fancy cars with loud noises, all of this is false.
Well, I may have tampered with the silencer of my car.
Okay.
Because I was always into kind of fast cars, loved motor racing and stuff like that. But, you know, I mean, it still remained a Standard Herald.
But why did you do that? Like just to show off like the noise and everything?
Look, if you can modify the silencer of a car, like you can modify the top end of a car's engine to make it go a little quicker. I mean, that's the basics of motorsport.
But how were you as a child, personality-wise? Were you confident? Were you a little arrogant?
This is all a question of perception. Arrogant is also your understanding of arrogance, my understanding of arrogance.
Correct.
But I'll tell you one thing. I was always self-confident. And whenever I was invited to give talks at various universities and educational establishments, I always told the youngsters that when they start off life, they must be self-confident. Because it is only self-confidence that will bring out the best in you. And I still believe that till today. And because I started young, I am passionate about youth empowerment.
But this would have not been the case always. As a kid, we all have like a lot of insecurities. It's not always confidence. What was your biggest insecurity when you were growing up?
I don't. Yeah, probably the biggest insecurity was when the examination results were due and what my dad would have to say about it. But no, beyond that, my life is pretty plain and simple. Great bunch of school friends, great bunch of college buddies in Calcutta. Not the glitzy lights of Bombay. And yeah, so it was pretty normal, but nothing fancy. But I had a very strict set of supervisors at work who were clearly instructed by my father to be tough with me, to make sure, I worked my butt off. And I'm none the happier for it. That's what made me.
But did you ever get to a position or in a thinking as a child that one day I'll be powerful? One day I'll be very rich?
No, absolutely not. I mean, how could I be so presumptuous? Here I had a dad who was hands-on, working 24/7, young, and who told me that if I didn't measure up, I'd have no place in the business. So I couldn't be presumptive, could I?
But your father was a wealthy man. In those times, there were only few wealthy people. So you would presume this, right? Like, I will have all this wealth inherited. I'll be maybe bigger than my father or maybe just have all of these things.
I didn't have any such aspirations in those days. And wealth was something that was very relative. And my father certainly was a very frugal spender. So irrespective of how much wealth he had, he certainly wasn't a spendthrift.
You said when you used to go to work, your father put strict supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What would those strict supervisors made you do?
Well, first of all, make sure that I came to the office on time, straight after college. It wasn't as if I'd sort of roll up whenever I wanted to.
Okay.
The second, I was given a clear set of tasks. I was a salesman. I had to go and visit the shops in the market. I had to visit distributors. I had to spend time with the accounts department to understand accounting, corporate accounting. And marketing, sit with the ad agencies and stuff like that. So it was a comprehensive training program, but with no forgiveness in any sense. I had to work a full day. I couldn't sort of get up and go or come when I liked, which was fine. I mean, looking back, it was a great grounding.
What happened next? So you were in Xavier's, you started going to work.
मुझे ज़्यादा जो हुआ था ये एपिसोड मालिया का, इसकी ज़्यादा नॉलेज नहीं है, तो मुझे बस जो थोड़ा बहुत जो न्यूज़ में थोड़ा देखा था वही पता था। तो अभी जो बता रहे हैं, बात हो रही है पॉडकास्ट एंड तक, मैं अपना व्यू बना पाऊँगी कि डिसीजन कि मैं भाई कौन सही हो सकता है कौन नहीं, या हो सकता है आई माइट नॉट बी एबल टू पर एट दिस पॉइंट जितना अभी में हमने सुना है उसमें तो मुझे यही दिख रहा है कि फादर वो हैड हाई एक्सपेक्टेशंस, अमीर फैमिली का था ये, और फादर जो हैं वो स्ट्रिक्ट थे, बच्चे को मेक श्योर करना चाहते थे कि ही सक्सीड्स इन लाइफ, ही फॉलोज और ही बिकम्स अ गुड ह्यूमन, और ये नहीं कि पैसा है फैमिली में तो उससे वो बिगड़ जाए। तो मुझे तो फादर जो है वो बहुत उस टाइप से दिखे अभी तक, जैसे कहानी बताई है कि भैया स्ट्रिक्टली तुमने आना है, काम करना है, छोटे शुरू से तुमने छोटे कामों से शुरू होके ऊपर आना है, और अगर तुम नहीं काम कर सकते तो फिर तुम्हारे मतलब तुम मेरी बिजनेस को आगे नहीं चला पाओगे, उस टाइप का। और पढ़ाई में बहुत स्ट्रेस किया था कि पढ़ाई अच्छी करो। अब बच्चा जो है क्योंकि बहुत अमीर ख़ानदान से पैदा हुआ है, हर एक पेरेंट को ये डर लगता है कि गलत रास्ते पे ना चला जाए, इसलिए ज़्यादा कंट्रोल करके रखा हुआ था फादर ने। मैं तो अभी तक यही समझ पाई हूँ।
अभी तक तो जो बोला है बहुत अच्छा है। केम फ्रॉम गुड फैमिली थी, अच्छी जगह पढ़ाई की, फादर ने मोटिवेट किया अच्छा करने के लिए, अच्छा किया क्लास में, जो बच्चे करते हैं छोटा मोटा साइलेंस वगैरह, दैट्स फाइन। तो अब तक तो सब लग रहा है कि डिसिप्लिन चल रहा है, सब बढ़िया चल रहा है, अच्छी एजुकेशन मिल रही है। और क्योंकि फादर की अपनी फर्म थी, वहाँ पे सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स में बच्चे को एक्सपीरियंस दिया जा रहा है जिससे वो खुद का बिजनेस कर पाए। वरना कहाँ लोगों को अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलती है कि सेल्स में चले गए, मार्केटिंग में चले गए, अकाउंटिंग में चले गए, यहाँ चले गए। मतलब फादर ने मेक श्योर किया था कि मेरा बच्चा जो है हर पार्ट ऑफ द बिजनेस को देख ले, जिससे बाद में वो कुछ ग्रेट कर सके।
एग्जैक्टली। और पढ़ाई में अगर जैसे बता रहे कि शौक नहीं है पढ़ाई में, मार्क्स बता रहे थे तो मार्क्स अच्छे नहीं आ रहे थे। अगर कोई एक नॉर्मल इंसान होगा जिसकी पढ़ाई में मार्क्स नहीं होगा तो उसको इस टाइप की इतनी अच्छी जो भी उसके फादर का बिजनेस था उस कंपनी में इस टाइप की जो जॉब है कि 400 रुपया मिलेगा महीने का, वो भी ना मिले। तो उस टाइप से ही वाज लकी। एंड
अभी तक तो लग रहा है कि फादर ने मेक श्योर किया कि बच्चे के पास वो स्किल्स हों जिससे वो और बिजनेसेस कर सके।
फादर वाज वेरी पर्टिकुलर और अपने बच्चे के फ्यूचर के लिए बहुत कंसर्न्ड अभी तक ये देखा है।
बेस जो था अभी तक तो स्ट्रांग था।
हाँ, अच्छा बेस। फादर की कोशिश यही थी। तो चलो यार, आप भी शेयर करना अपने थॉट्स। चलते हैं, मिलेंगे नेक्स्ट वीडियो में बहुत ही जल्द। टिल देन टेक केयर एंड बाय बाय।
तो अगर आप मेरे इस चैनल पे नए हो तो जल्दी से सब्सक्राइब के बटन को हिट करो और बेल आइकन को क्लिक करो ताकि आपको मेरा जब नया वीडियो मैं लगाऊं आपको उसके बारे में जल्दी से पता चल जाए।